tenets of the Religious Society of Friends. Explain how. The school values its interconnectedness with the Religious Society of Friends, which strengthens both groups in transmitting the abiding values, beliefs, and traditions of Quakerism. Just reading some random questions. All board members, regardless of the religious affiliation, embrace their responsibility to be ambassadors and advocates of the school's mission. Explain how. So it's a series of things like that. You know, from November 21st, Mark Pfeiffer and Robin Richmond wrote a letter to our whole community saying, we are doing this, we're embarking on this, and please be aware of it, and please fill out a survey that's on its way in February. So we're doing lots of focus groups, lots of one-on-ones, lots of mid-sizes, but the survey that's on its way is a major way that you can enter in and have your voice count in what is, in essence, both a kind of a temperature check of the healthiness of our approach to Quakerism and us finding out what is mysterious, what do people want to know more about, what are we doing well, what can we improve. So that's the Quaker self-study. It's probably a once every 10-year kind of thing. So it is a big deal for us, and any way you can enter in. And how we can tell that story in the context of the Quaker self-study, for me, that's a great question. Lower school search. First thing is, why would anyone in their right mind want to replace Ginger Pfeiffer? What is going on with that?
My husband can tell you a few reasons.
So you know that last February, or this February, this school year, this calendar year, Joe said, I have had a great run and I want to leave on top. And I said, you mean this year? I just kind of couldn't believe that. And he said, yeah. Ginger was a huge factor in that, knowing that we could have continuity and excellence and compassion, and she stepped up. At the same time, we realized that we wanted to do a national search, that this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for the right person, and we wanted to cast the net very wide. We gathered a committee, and I'll talk more about that later in terms of the decision-making process. And we started running the job description up the flagpole all around the country. That sounds more complicated than it is. It's really, if you fish in 4 or 5 places, anyone who is looking for this job can find it like that. I would say we got 80 to 100 resumes, and the core group of Ginger, Shannon, and I turned those 80 resumes into about 15 resumes that we brought to a committee of people who want to move this forward, of faculty and staff. We then turned those 15 to 18 resumes into 12 and Skyped all 12. This was my first Skype experience. I'm not proud of that, but Shannon brought this to us. It was remarkably effective and efficient. We had 4 groups of 3 doing free Skype interviews in an hour and a half, 25 minutes each, write your notes, do it again, 25 minutes each, write your notes, gather back in 2 hours. And it was remarkably coherent in that we all kind of agreed, those folks don't need to go forward, those folks must go forward. There were 2 or 3 people to talk about in the middle, done. We brought 5 people to campus for 1 day. And we have now moved through that, and we're now selecting finalists to come for 2 days. Not unlike the middle school search, your voice is really, really important. Parent voice played a major role in the middle school search and finding what I think, a person who I think is just of national prominence right in our backyard, right? There are no internal candidates. There were no internal candidates from the beginning on this search. We were going to have someone not from our community. I think that's really healthy, especially when you combine it with the length of service with a lot of people here. I think that's just wonderful. So, those finalists are starting to come in next week, Monday, Tuesday.
Yes, and we're gonna have coffee right here, 8 o'clock. You'll get a notice, it's probably come to you in your email already today. Well, soon, right, Lisa? But 8 o'clock to 9, drop in, informal, just meet the candidates. Monday, 8 to 9, this coming week, and Thursday of next week. So the next week, 2 days, each one, the candidates are coming Monday, Tuesday for a 2-day visit, and then Thursday, Friday. So Monday and Thursday, 8 to 9 in here, informal, just meet and greet the candidates.
Will we be able to meet all the candidates on Monday or Thursday?
No, one on Monday, one on
Okay,
Thursday.
so there's 2 candidates.
There's 2 candidates coming in.
And there is an aspect of the 2-day, and we both go through this, that is kind of lovingly intended to be really hard, right? And then when they're kind of at their energy level, on the second day, you get to kind of bear in and ask more questions, right? So this is a hard thing. We want it to be that. We want it to be that. And you entering in really matters. Not that you enter in with anything other than kindness, but your questions matter. And then the forums, where we get feedback kind of right away, that really matters too, because this process is moving. And I'm just really going to write an email to everyone.
Yes, you will be hearing by the end of the day tomorrow, everything you need to know for us to receive your feedback.
Let me just close by sewing together both the Friends Council, self-study, and this process. One of the things I've talked about to clarify our decision-making process is 4 levels of decision-making. And employees, I think, are internalizing it because now it's routinely coming back to me, which I like. They said, well, what level decision is this? So I've talked about this often with parents, but maybe some of you haven't heard this. These are the 4 levels that I described. Level 1, I'm going to make a decision and I'm not seeking your input. Level 2, I'm going to make a decision and I am seeking your input. Level 3, consensus, in a kind of a classic Quaker consensus model, which I'll come back to. And level 4, please go make a decision and come back and tell me. Now that I can be anyone. This can be Ginger saying this, Shannon saying this, me saying this, people in the committee. We have decided on the committee, well, I've decided that the committee is going to be a level 3 process. What that means is the 14 members, is it? 14 members on the
With
committee?
us,
With
it's
you.
10,
10 plus.
plus.
Are going to come to consensus. If you think of Friends process and seeking consensus as, I want cold tea, I want hot tea, let's compromise on warranty and we're all equally unsatisfied, that's what I'm trying to push back against, right? I think that's the national conception of Quakers and consensus. What we start with is a spirit-led decision-making faith. We start with meaningful worship. We start with centered, just like we did this morning. We end with centered. And in the middle, we bring our highest selves and we seek clarity and we ask questions and we listen to each other and we model what I think is great first grade teaching and great adult teaching. And if you move into a meeting like that, you come in with a kind of sense of humility because you believe you have a part of a truth, but there's truth in the room that is bigger and in a sense in a higher place than any one of us. So we did this in the middle school process, and guess what? We got Alexa. I would submit to you that this is evidence of this process really working. We are doing this with this process, and we're doing this level 3 decision making in the upper school process. So I can't not be the head of school in these meetings, right? I am people's employer and they respond to me like that, and that's fair. In some ways, one of the biggest abuses of power is a denial that you have it. But when we sit together in spirit-led decision that is bookended with meaningful worship, there really is a moment where we're all in here together, we all have truth to bring, we all can find this place, and I see it working. I really want to offer this as a model that connects directly to our mission. When people say, what is different about Friends Central? I wanted to start right there. I wanted to start right with decision making and how we bring in spectacular people, and I wanted to go right through the first grade. So that's my update on self-study and course research. Do we have time for questions, or we do it at the end?
Yeah, I have questions on that, because before Shannon. Question?
What's the time frame for having a decision on the candidate?
Yeah, we think what you bring, by what you bring. Yeah, I mean, this is like, that's why when you meet these folks and when you have your feedback, like do it that evening, do it right after you meet them, because it really matters, don't wait.
How many candidates do we have coming in?
Two.
Just the two?
Yep.
Do you have Peter does it in his sleep. Print it on a card.
Yeah.
and give it
Yeah, sure. Level 1, I'm going to make a decision, I'm not seeking input. Level 2, I'm going to make a decision, I am seeking input. Now there's a component of that called trust, right? When we talk, you need to believe on some level that it matters, that I haven't already made up my mind, right? So that's a way to spread trust in the community. Level 3, classic consensus. It's not hot tea, warm tea, cold tea. It's us coming together in faith-based decision making. Level 4, please make a decision and come back and tell me.
Mr. Sellers, are you going to post the credentials of the candidates?
Their resumes will be available, is that right? Their resumes will be available for people to see. Yes, absolutely. I don't know if it's going to be much beforehand.
Right
or
beforehand,
there.
so I go for it.
And, you know, we're also trying to kind of thread the needle of confidentiality, right? On the one hand, I was here and my children didn't know I was here. And I can tell you it was aching and distracting on some level. But Carrie and I, my wife Carrie and I decided there was no other way to do it. It was the best way to do it. So candidates have kind of different levels of outness, which is why you kind of don't put it all over your website and don't put it all over the internet. You're probably going to get a better candidate pool if you demonstrate sensitivity to that. Because if people don't get it, they're going to go back in their community and they don't want a sense of being damaged. Thank you.
I know many of you are here to hear about technology next year. So Shannon's going to speak to lower school technology as we move forward next year.
Or some sort of news conference, especially with the camera. So good morning, it's great to see all of you. Before we get into nitty gritty, I think I'd love to just talk big picture for a minute, if that's okay. And this is not canned, I didn't really prepare this, but as I was sitting here listening, I was thinking, I remember being here on December 12th for my interview, my first visit, and I started on this campus, and I met with some lower school teachers in the living room, and then Jimmy took me on a tour. And about halfway through the tour, I thought, I love it here. I thought, I want my son to go here, because this looks like a fun place to learn. And I am really passionate about children being excited about going to school. I have 2 boys, and the thought of dragging them every morning for 13 years is just not appealing. I want them to be okay with going to school in the morning. I know at some point I'm going to have to drag them, but as long as I can, I want them to love getting up and going to school. And when I walked around this building, that's what I saw. I saw all this creativity. I saw rooms with space shuttles in them and teepees, and I thought, this looks like play, but I know it's learning. I know that there's all this great pedagogy behind this thing that looks fun and creative and exciting. I think that when we move and we add technology next year in a one-to-one environment, it's only to accentuate that creativity and that excitement and that engagement. I don't think anything is going to change in terms of the themes and the space shuttles and the teepees and all of the amazing things that we do. I would be devastated if that happened. I think you would be devastated if that happened, right? I think you're here because you love the same things that I love about Friends Central. But I do think that with technology, we can do some additional things that we can't do without it. And I think we have a great school already. I'm not trying to muck it up or make it worse. But I do want to make it the best it can be because my son goes to school here too. And when I look at technology, I see the ability to be even more creative and even more engaged than we are now. That doesn't mean that every lesson has technology. It doesn't mean that, and I tell the teachers this all the time, when I walk in, if you're not using technology, don't think, oh my gosh, we're not using it. I don't care if you don't use it for 3 weeks. You should use it when it's right. You should use technology when it's going to make the experience deeper and richer and do things that you couldn't do without it. But a great teacher under a tree with a stick is still better than a teacher with technology who doesn't have a well-planned lesson or doesn't care about kids and doesn't have the right things in place. So when we talk about technology, I always use the pencil analogy. It's just a really fantastic pencil. It's just a tool. It doesn't replace anything. It doesn't change our curriculum. It doesn't change our pedagogy, but it does allow us to do some things that we can't do with just a pencil. And I was at King Street Friends yesterday speaking to their teachers about technology. And I said, imagine, you know, I wasn't alive then, although I'm getting a lot of gray. I wasn't alive during the one-room schoolhouse days, but I did watch Little House on the Prairie. And like there were chalk and slate, right? So all these kids had a little slate and a piece of chalk. I mean, imagine how limiting that was. You could never write more than like a sentence. I mean, chalk and slate, I mean, you know, so they couldn't collect it. I mean, they had to keep erasing it to do the next thing. You could never keep a child's work on chalk and slate. The teacher could never really assess it beyond, that looks good, keep going. Imagine when paper and pencil or pen and pencil became readily available in schools. Imagine how game-changing that was. I mean, I can't imagine being a teacher and going, I can keep their work. Or I can have them write more than a sentence. I mean, that was an enormous change in the way we teach. Because we could do things differently. No one would say, you know what, we should go back to chalk and slate. I think there were some advantages. I mean, no one would say that was better than what we can do with pen and pencil and paper. I think technology is the exact same thing. It is so big that people are going, oh my gosh, I don't, what does this mean? But it's so big because it has the potential to be really deeply better and more engaging, and we can assess kids better and we can do more creative things. So it is a huge change, and I accept the fact that there's sometimes anxiety around that, but it's really good change. And I've seen it in schools, and I've seen what it can do, and I want us to be excited around it because I think the kids are already loving it. In 5th grade, when you walk around and see what they're doing, in 1st grade we have a cart, and so they share the cart, and they're loving what they're doing, and the teachers are loving it, but it's not going to change the root of what we do here, but it is going to augment it, I hope, and produce some deeper learning. So the details, we will be in a one-to-one environment in K through 5. So in nursery and in pre-K, we will probably have a cart or a kind of a station situation where a classroom will have, I don't know the exact number yet, probably 1/3 of the number of students, so maybe 6 or 5 iPads in the room so that they can be used at times. And then in kindergarten through 5th, there will be 1 iPad per child, and it will really be theirs in terms of daily work. When you grab it, you will always grab your iPad, for lack of a better term, and that way they can keep their work on it and save things and manipulate it and get to know their device. They won't take it home. We do have carts that lock, and if you're interested at some point, we can go see what how they look in 5th and 1st grade. So the charging happens in that same cart, so at night they can charge. We're finding that we don't really charge them every night. We probably charge them maybe twice a week in 5th grade, if that. The batteries are great on iPads, but in addition, we don't use them 8 hours a day. So, if you only use it for a half hour, an hour on Monday, you don't probably need to charge it until Thursday. But in those carts, all the cords come in the back and the kids charge it. We do push out the apps, we control the image. There's nothing about it that is about the child except the work that's on it. I mean, the device is owned by the school, it stays at school. There will probably be isolated exceptions, and I would imagine maybe 4th or 5th grade, where if a student is right in the middle of something and really wants to finish it, that we might say you can take it home, but we do have kind of a standardized email that you would get sent as a parent that said, Jane is bringing her iPad home tonight. She's bringing it home for the purpose of this assignment. it should take this long, and please bring it back tomorrow. And that way as a parent, you would know, oh, you don't need 6 hours on that tonight. The teacher said you need 30 minutes. But we want you to be as informed as you can so that you feel like you have some control when it does come home. But I don't think that will happen often, but I also know if the student's been absent for 2 days and they come back on the 3rd day and they feel behind and the project they're working on is on the iPad, we want them to be able to finish it. So there's no fee. It will be included in tuition in the lower school. That's a different model than on the City Ave campus. So if you have multiple children, you're dealing with 2 different setups, but on City Ave,